Welcome to another episode of English Echo Stories, where every story brings you closer to English fluency. She defied empires, broke through walls built for men, and uncovered forces that would change the world forever. Her name became a symbol of science, strength, and sacrifice. This is not just the story of a Nobel Prize winner. It's the story of a woman who walked through fire to bring light to the world. Welcome to the extraordinary life of Marie Curie. The radiant journey of Marie Curie. In a small, quiet room in Warsaw, Poland, on a crisp November night, in 1867, a baby girl was born. Her name was Maria Skłodowska. She would one day be known to the world as Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the only person to ever win two in two different sciences. But on that night, there were no scientists, no honors, no glowing test tubes, only a child, a family, and a world not yet ready for the brilliance she would bring. A childhood in the shadows. Maria grew up in Russian-occupied Poland, a country where speaking your native language in school could get you punished. Her father was a teacher, and her mother ran a boarding school. But life was cruel. Her mother died of tuberculosis when Maria was only 10. Her eldest sister had passed away years earlier from typhus. Sorrow made her quiet and serious, but it also made her strong. From a young age, Maria showed a love for learning that seemed almost otherworldly. She devoured books. Her father filled her mind with science. But in Russian-ruled Poland, women were not allowed to attend university. So she waited and plotted. Together with her older sister Bronisława, Maria made a pact. Maria would work as a governess to support Bronisława's medical studies in Paris. Then one day, Bronisława would help Maria do the same. It would take years. It would take everything. A hunger for knowledge in Paris. At the age of 24, Maria arrived in Paris with nothing but a dream and a few coins in her pocket. She enrolled at the Sorbonne, changing her name to Marie to blend in. She studied physics and mathematics by day, and survived on little more than bread and tea by night. Sometimes she fainted from hunger. She wore the same clothes for weeks. Paris was cold. Her room had no heat. But her mind was on fire. In 1893, she earned her degree in physics, and a year later, a second in mathematics. It was in those dusty, crowded lecture halls that she met a man who would change her life and become her partner in discovery. Pierre Curie, love in a lab coat. Pierre Curie was a physicist, quiet and thoughtful like Marie. He was fascinated by crystals and magnetism. When he met Marie, he recognized instantly the brilliance in her. They spoke the same language, the language of science. They married in 1895. No grand wedding, no jewels. Pierre gifted her a bicycle. They rode it through the countryside together, discussing atoms, waves, and the invisible forces of nature. Their apartment became their lab. Their lab became their world. The glow of discovery, polonium and radium. At the time, scientists had just discovered a strange force, radioactivity, a term Marie would later coin. She chose this as the topic of her doctoral research. Using pitchblende, a dark ore known to contain uranium, Marie began to measure radiation. But something was strange. The radiation coming from the ore was stronger than what uranium alone could explain. That meant only one thing. There was another element hidden inside. Marie and Pierre worked tirelessly, crushing tons of ore, boiling it down in giant cauldrons, separating chemicals with endless precision. The conditions were brutal. The lab was damp, the chemicals toxic, and the work never-ending. In 1898, Marie discovered a new element and named it polonium in honor of her homeland. Later that year, they discovered a second, even more radioactive element, radium. It was one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs in history. A Nobel Prize, denied and then delivered. In 1903, the Nobel Committee decided to award Pierre Curie and Henri Becquerel the Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on radioactivity, but they left Marie's name off the list. Pierre, outraged, refused to accept unless Marie was included. The committee reluctantly agreed. Marie Curie became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. But triumph was followed by tragedy. A sudden loss. In 1906, Pierre was crossing a busy street in Paris when he was struck by a horse-drawn carriage and killed instantly. Marie was devastated. Her partner, her love, her mind's mirror, gone. But she did not stop. Instead, she stepped into his teaching post at the Sorbonne, becoming the first female professor at the university. She worked with quiet fury, focusing all her grief into her research. She isolated pure radium. She proved its atomic weight. She documented its strange glowing properties. In 1911, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, making her the only person to win Nobels in 2 different sciences. Science in service of humanity. When World War I broke out, Marie Curie refused to sit in safety. She developed mobile X-ray units, small radiology machines installed in trucks, nicknamed Little Curies. She trained nurses and drove from battlefield to battlefield, helping doctors locate bullets and fractures inside wounded soldiers. She touched hundreds of thousands of lives. But all this exposure to radiation, still little understood, came at a cost. The price of discovery. Marie Curie's health began to fail. Her bones ached. Her vision weakened. She suffered from chronic fatigue. In 1934, she died of aplastic anemia, likely caused by years of exposure to radiation. She was buried next to Pierre in a modest grave. But in 1995, the French government honored them by moving their remains to the Pantheon in Paris, a resting place reserved for the nation's greatest heroes. Her coffin was lined with lead. To this day, her notebooks are so radioactive they are stored in lead boxes and must be handled with protective gear. A legacy that glows eternal. Marie Curie changed the world, not just with what she discovered, but with who she was. A woman who studied by candlelight, who fought hunger and sexism, who turned sorrow into science, who gave us radiation therapy for cancer, who showed the world that knowledge has no gender. Even now, over a century later, her name shines brighter than radium. And not because of what she found, but because of what she refused to lose, her mind, her courage, her truth. Marie Curie taught us that greatness is not born, it is earned through sacrifice, struggle, and an unshakable belief in something bigger than yourself. She walked where no woman had walked before, not to be the first, but to open the door for the rest. Her light still burns, and in that light, we all see more clearly. Thank you for listening. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and follow for more English stories that touch the heart and train the mind. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and never stop dreaming.